Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. I know how busy it is. I know you'll all have taken time out of your schedules to be here. So on behalf of the International Tennis Hall of Fame, thank you for doing that. We're very grateful. We hope you've enjoyed your breakfast. And I'd also like to thank Octagon for giving us the run of this pretty nice house and for laying on the breakfast as well. We're going to be hearing from our wonderful inductees very shortly. But first, I'd like to introduce Dan Faber, the Chief Executive Officer of the International Tennis Hall of Fame.
Thank you, Catherine. I'm still going old school. I have paper. That's impressive. Thank you, everybody, for being here today. Patrick McEnroe, who is the president, and Kim Kleister is the other president of the Hall of Famers. They also say hello. Obviously, Patrick's busy a little bit today, as well as Kim, and she's going to be playing. But they send their hellos to everybody, and I guess it's my job now to take this part of it. I want to thank Octagon as well for hosting us here today. Many of those folks involved in that are on the board of the International Tennis Hall of Fame, so we appreciate that support. Welcome, Leander. We're excited. Welcome, Richard Evans. We're very excited about what's coming up in the next about a week and a half from now. In fact, we're all going to be flying back shortly to make sure we get ready for that epic experience over that weekend. Vijay Amritraj, I think, is coming a little later, but he will be here, so we're very excited about this incoming 2024 class, and that's what it's about here today. With that, I just want to say a few things about the mission of the organization, because I'm finding that not everybody truly understands what this ultimate honor is in our sport of tennis. So the mission of the International Tennis Hall of Fame is we preserve and we promote the history of the game, the entire game, the global game. But we also celebrate its champions, and that's what we're here for today, and we'll be doing that quite a bit all the way into what I say the road to Newport. And we will continue to do that throughout the year. But the most important piece, what I believe, is the history of the game, the players that represent it as the ultimate honor, they inspire generations globally. And that's what this is all about. You are going to have an impact in the lives of so many people, youth especially, and we're excited about how we're going to leverage that. And so we are very, very honored and very, very happy to have two of the three here. And as soon as Vijay gets here, is he here now? He will be joining us. Great. So with that, I would like to turn it back to Catherine. We don't want to put him on the spot. As soon as he turns around, he has to come up here. I have to tee up the video. Told you it should have been Patrick. Video is better. Pictures speak 1,000 words. So I will draw your attention to this video about the Hall of Fame, and I think you will be just as inspired as I said that our mission is intended to be.
Special moments in our lives, and certainly this will go down as one of those.
I thank the generations that came before me, and hopefully we've helped the future generations.
I'm very incredulous and bemused about being enshrined in this ultimate shrine of tennis. How nice to be in a museum before you're stuffed.
When I first picked up a racket, I never imagined where this magical sport called tennis would take me. We're all told that it's a game, that it's the sport of a lifetime, and it really is for me.
Tennis allows you to feel things on a daily basis.
Tennis gave me confidence. Tennis transformed me into the very essence of who I am today.
I know what it's like to see some black hero do well, in the face of adversity.
So all you young girls out there, you can do anything you want if you put your mind to it.
I am living proof that no dream, no journey is impossible.
What matters most in life is the quality of your partnerships.
Tennis has seen so many opportunities and it's taught me so many lessons.
It wouldn't be until later that I would truly appreciate what it takes to be a great champion. Things like sportsmanship and dignity.
tennis has given me so, and that debt I can never repay.
Some incredible induction speeches there, and I'm sure there will be plenty more this year as well. It is time now to talk more about our class of 2024 and the incredible careers that they have had on and off the court. I will be starting with the contributor category, where Richard Evans and Vijay Amritraj have been selected. This category recognises true pioneers, visionary leaders, or people who have made a transcendent impact on the sport. And I think we can all agree that these inductees fill those briefs. Our first inductee, Richard Evans, has covered more than 200 Grand Slams and reported on his first Wimbledon in 1960, the same year he took Althea Gibson as a guest to the Wimbledon ball, stopping at his mother's flat in Marble Arch for a pre-dinner drink. He has written 23 books and as a young reporter covered much more than just tennis, including as a war reporter in the Vietnam War. Richard was the ATP Tour's first ever press officer in 1973, rising to become the organisation's European director and remaining on its board until 1979. He's an Arsenal fan, regrettably, and a huge England cricket fan as well. And most importantly, he is still a passionate advocate for media and for tennis and for the relationship between the two. On a personal note, I first met Richard 14 years ago as a naive young communications director for the ATP Champions Tour in Delray Beach, and I will never forget how warm and respectful Richard was towards me, and I'm sure everyone in this room has a very similar tale to tell about Richard Evans. Ladies and gentlemen, Richard Evans. Our next inductee, Vijay Amritraj, is one of the true pioneers of tennis across Asia and a superstar of tennis in the 1970s and 80s. Vijay was one of India's greatest players in the Open era, anchoring the country's Davis Cup squad to its only 2 final appearances in 1974 and 1987. And in the first of those, in 1974, he played a key role in India's boycott of the final against South Africa, taking a high-profile stand against apartheid. Once his playing days had come to an end, Vijay became the face of tennis broadcasting in Asia and the Middle East. He's done incredible things off the court. In 2001, he became the first Indian to serve as United Nations Messenger for Peace. And perhaps most importantly of all, since 2006, the Vijay Amritraj Foundation has provided education and basic needs for women and children in India's neediest communities. Ladies and gentlemen, Vijay Amritraj. I'll let you get reacquainted. Last, but by no means least, selected in the prestigious player category, we have Leander Paes. During his 3-decade career, Leander topped the world rankings in doubles and won 18 Grand Slam titles. With 8 in men's doubles and 10 in mixed, he is one of only 3 men in tennis history to capture a career slam in both disciplines. Leander is tied with his former partner, Hall of Famer Martina Navratilova, for the most major mixed doubles titles in the Open era. And to top that off, he and Hall of Famer Martina Hingis are one of only 2 mixed doubles teams in the Open era to complete a career Grand Slam together. Leander spent a total of 462 weeks inside the ATP doubles top 10, including 37 weeks as a number 1. And he finished his career with 55 doubles titles. Leander proudly represented India in international competition for 30 years, winning with a Davis Cup record of 45 doubles rubbers won during his career. Perhaps most proudly of all for Leander, he competed in a record, wait for it, 7 consecutive Olympic Games, the most in tennis history. And he is India's only Olympic medalist in tennis, capturing the bronze in singles at the Atlanta Games in 1996. To top all of that, Leander is also a huge fan favourite, receiving a landslide victory in the Hall of Fame annual online fan vote last year. Leander, alongside Vijay, will become the first 2 Indians to receive tennis's ultimate honour and are the first Asian men to be elected in their respective categories. Ladies and gentlemen, Leander Paes, and please join me in congratulating our class of 2024. Congratulations to you all. It's wonderful to have you here today. I will open it up to questions from the floor, but I just want to ask you a few myself first, if that's okay. And Richard, I'm going to start with you.
Hello. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Richard. Did you think this would ever happen? How does this feel? And did you see it coming?
I don't know how to answer that. No, I never saw it coming, but if you sit on a committee for 20 years, something eventually happens, I suppose. So I do know how it works because I've been privileged to sit on that committee, which I always think our nominating committee of the International Tennis Hall of Fame is probably the highest IQ of the game that exists in all the committees that sit during the year in all the various fiefdoms that we have in the game. We have a really remarkable group of people who do our best to nominate people. So all I can say is I know how it works, and still I was surprised.
Can I ask your memories of watching Vijay and Leander?
What a privilege to watch 2 people who were so naturally skillful at a very difficult sport, and elegance and power and skill mixed. They both had it. They both used those skills over such a long period of time. You guys really went at it, didn't you? And longevity is also something to be remarked upon. Delightful to work with as a media person. Couldn't have found 2 people more approachable or more understanding of our job, which is always, well, not always the case, shall we say. But no, 2 great champions in their own different ways. And I'm honored to be sandwiched between 2 Indians. Just, are you bringing the entire country with you to Newport or just a few?
Yes, the World Cup is done.
Vijay, I'll move on to you. Tell us what this honour means to you, receiving the ultimate honour in tennis.
I think the first thing is that from our part of the world, we didn't quite know enough about it till we were first told about it. And it came much later in my career to even hear about the International Tennis Hall of Fame. And I think it was such a distant goal, or a distant, it was so far away rather, like when we started playing tennis, and London was too far to get to, Wimbledon was too far to even imagine. And all you saw on film clips, on movies that we would go to see in India were great champions on the movie screen, whether it was Gonzalez or Rhode or Rosewall or Laver and so on. So I think we grew up with it being almost unattainable to even think that far. And that's why I've always been very amazed at my parents, who actually imagined things and believed in things that perhaps you couldn't dream or imagine at the time. And needless to say, as we grew up, one of them was clearly the International Tennis Hall of Fame. And whether it was even feasible to think that any of us could actually get in and what it would take. And I think it's more than just playing the game of tennis. I think it's more a question of eventually bringing people together, giving a sense of community, sense of family, a sense of understanding, education. That by far, this has been my greatest education, not even close to anything else that I could have learned in school. I wasn't a very good student, but that's a different issue. But I think the important factor is that you learn so much from this. It has taught me so much, not just about the world, everyone that I've met, but mostly about yourself and what you can do if you set your mind to it in any line of work. And I think all these things, it brings out your own character, your own beliefs, and your own thoughts as to where you can potentially go, even potentially after your career is over. And so, needless to say, I've been very blessed. This induction into the Hall of Fame kind of gave me a flash of my memory. It just came to me as Katrina and Anne-Marie told me right before my big birthday. I won't tell you what it was.
21.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm not close to Richard though, so I'm okay. But when I got that, my whole life from kind of 7 to 70 flashed before me as to what it entailed and what my parents went through and eventually where it has gotten me. And for me, it has always been more a blessing of not just me, but my country, where as far as I was always concerned, playing on the center court at Wimbledon, it just happened to be me, but it was always an Indian. For me, it was always India on the center court. It was the Indian people who supported me all over the place that I played and took me to places that I never dreamt I would go. I knew at the end of the day, I had to deliver 60 to 70% of the tennis. They were going to give me the other 30 or 40% on their own, which they did time and time again. And so it took us to places that we never dreamt we would go. And to me, it is basically India being honored today with us both being in the Hall of Fame at this point in time. So it is a very, very special moment for the Indian anthem and the Indian tricolor.
Did that come with pressure, representing not just yourself,
yes,
but India?
As the great Billie Jean King rightly said, pressure is a privilege. Every challenge is an opportunity. And she put those words so rightly, it's kind of etched in my brain that it is. And very few people are given this pressure because we're representing the largest democracy in the world, the largest sporting fraternity in the world. Though cricket might be a religion, the other sports people are waiting for people to excel in that and to be able to put the tricolor on the world map. So I think that it gives you that pressure. And yes, criticism comes fast and furious if you don't perform, but it's valid criticism because they're so passionate about it. They want you to do well. They want you to put India on the map. They want you to win for the tricolor. So I think all of that is pressure, but at the same time, it gives you that adrenaline to perform better than you can.
Leander, I imagine there's a lot of what Vijay just said there that you can echo and relate to.
Well, yes. Good morning, everyone, firstly. I grew up watching these guys. In 1986, on the 12th of May, I was selected for the Amritraj Tennis Academy. And I wouldn't be who I am today without Mrs. Amritraj or Mr. Amritraj or Vijay Amritraj or Anand Amritraj. Vijay would not give me an audition, so hence his brother took over. He said I wasn't good enough. But Anand gave me an audition during Davis Cup in Calcutta. And at that point, I was on a football scholarship to a European football team. Tennis was not something I even knew how to wield a tennis racket. The 8 boys at the Amritraj Academy were far better than me. I was the youngest. I was the smallest. I also did my first Holy Communion and went to church every Sunday with Vijay's parents. So the history that I share with his family is something I'm supremely grateful for. In the same year, in the end of 1986, one of the greatest writers of all time covering sport, and I learned today covering the Vietnam War, Richard Evans, was also in India writing Vijay's autobiography. And when we were sitting in our third floor apartment, I introduced myself to Mr. Evans, and he was wearing a beautiful royal blue jacket. And I said, good morning, sir. My name is Leander Paes. And he said, what do you want to be? So I said, I want to be an Olympic champion. And I remember back then he said, if you work hard enough, you could also be a Hall of Famer. This was on the 12th of May, 1986. I was 11. To sit on this stage with these iconic people, not just in my life, but in the world of our sport, is the greatest privilege, gratitude, love, unconditional love and respect for these two men. When we actually look at my history, I grew up to a Bengali mother who was 5 foot nothing, captain India in basketball. Her jersey number was number 5. I know because I used to iron it as a 7-year-old. I grew up to a father who played the 1972 Munich Olympics. He won a bronze medal. But during that Olympics, Palestinian terrorists took Israeli athletes hostage. And for all these amazing journalists, writers, historians, these people who are sitting in front of me, people I've looked up to for so many years, shared great relationships with. You'll know the games were shut down for 4 days. I was conceived in those 4 days. I guess my parents had nothing else better to do. So in that, being born to an Olympic family, ironing my dad's jersey number 10, my mom's jersey number 5, everything I lived for was for this, for the Indian flag, for the Indian people, to emulate my heroes, to try and etch my name in the history books. Big shoes to fill in, pressure. Pressure is not just a privilege. Pressure is when you got 1.4 billion people vying for the same education or for the same groceries or for the same roof over their heads. Pressure is something that's really real. But then when you see champions who handle it with grace, you see champions who handle it with patriotism. The conversations on my dining table were that representing 1.4 billion people, you got to set the example. And I've reached out to their history. I've looked at their history. When you look at this amazing screen, the thing that echoed to me about 20 minutes ago was Game Navratilova. I was privileged enough to hear that when she was my partner. I heard Game Rafa Nadal. I was privileged to hear that when he was my partner. I've played with 194 men's doubles partners. Been around the block a bit. Played with 26 mixed doubles partners. But really, today is a victory for every single one at the International Tennis Hall of Fame. I heard of the Hall of Fame the first time when I researched that Vijay had won the singles there. I researched that the grass courts were really low and hence his slice serve and his low volleys came into play. I'm not as tall as him, but I figured I could get down low to the grass too because I'm pretty short for a tennis player. And one of the unique things that we share is not just our Davis Cup passion, but also we're champions at the Hall of Fame. And to me, that means the world to me. It's the one singles title that I've won on the tour. So that sits right next to my Olympic medal. That sits right next to the 20 Grand Slams that I've won, 18 in doubles and mixed, and the 2 junior singles. And that's probably why I'm actually going to share this with you guys. I just came in this morning, and Anne-Marie and JT and everyone at the Hall of Fame have been so amazing in guiding me through this process. And Captain Dan, as I called him, has just been a great inspiration in all the wonderful things you do to inspire youth around the world. For Vijay and myself, it's not just only about India. It's about inspiring young boys and girls all across the world. And that is why I'm going to share my Olympic medal with the Hall of Fame. This medal is going to sit in the museum at the Hall of Fame. And this basically is a symbol to me that if we can play street cricket and street football barefoot back in India, and yet sit here as Hall of Fame representatives, if Sir Evans can cover the Vietnam War and still sit here and live to tell the tale, tennis has given us every single thing that we've learned from. And these men showed me the way. They paved the way for me. So this medal is what I'm going to share with Anne-Marie and JT and Captain Dan and every single one of the International Tennis Hall of Fame guys back in Newport. Because if we can play street cricket and street football barefoot and yet win Olympic medals and have Davis Cup records and get into the International Tennis Hall of Fame, any young kid can do it. So this thing's going to sit in the Hall of Fame as the passion that I have for inspiring the world.
I think we'd better open it up to the floor because Leander's cry. So could we have questions, please, for our induct Bill? Ophelia.
Hey, Richard, congratulations. I wanted to ask about India. It's one of the great, it's more than a country. It has this incredible spiritual foundation that goes back thousands of years. It's a huge country of just such passion and beauty. Could you talk about the evolution of our sport, tennis? I imagine it began primarily with the English coming, courts in the hill stations and the cities. And how did it manage to go from just a small part of a great, great culture to where it is today?
So India got independence in 1947 from Britain, and they used to make a joke of it way back when till Andy Murray kind of killed my joke, but he did. And I'll tell you why in a minute. But British journalists would always ask me as to why we were not having great champions come by and win Wimbledon. And I kind of might have been a long day at Wimbledon that I had. When I was asked the question, I basically said that, we're very good players, but when the British left India in 1947, they also left their attitude behind in sport. And that's why you don't have a champion and we don't have a champion. You haven't had it for 77 years, then of course Andy Murray killed my joke. But the most important factor in India is the cultural aspect of the country and the family. It is very difficult in India to tell a family of 4 with young children or 7 and 9, give up everything that you're doing, let's put them into a sport, move to Florida, move to Barcelona, and play tennis full time. It's the world's riskiest startup business. So it's very hard to invest in it because every family in India would like to see their child, boy or girl, to be able to go through school, go through college, eventually get a job, get married, have children, and then they feel that's the story. That's the way to live. And it's true because that's the way we've been brought up. And Leander may have different viewpoints, but we would probably agree on most things on this issue because as far as we are concerned in India, sport was played between 4 and 5 in the evening at tea time. And that's it. But things have changed to a great extent. When I was growing up and playing on the tour for the first time and left India with 3.5 pounds in my pocket, I had to win in the afternoon to be able to eat at night. At that time, people would say to my parents, yes, they play tennis, but what do they do for a living? And it was hard to answer that question. Needless to say, my late grandmother always said, why do you have to go so far to lose? But that was a different issue. Haven't been able to answer that one. But the important aspect in India is our culture. It's the issue the way our families are, and we are very conservative We're very risk averse, and this is a high risk situation. And do you put everything you can in the kitchen sink into a sport, be it tennis or anything else? So it's hard to come out of it. When Leander came into our program in '86, it was just so special because we knew we had someone who was incredible, was going to be incredible. His tennis hands were not as good as his legs. His legs were unbelievable. He's the quickest Indian we've ever had by a long shot. The Indians are great stroke makers. We look great, and we still do, look. But I do believe that we have never been given the quickness to get to the ball. If we got to the ball, we made a good shot. The problem was getting to that ball. But Leander was the one guy who had incredible quick hands, quick looks, quick movement. So the tennis could be taught. So that's how he got very good. He won Junior Wimbledon when he was with us. He just proved us right in what we could do. And I think that my mom was in love with this guy. So I think when we look back and what we see today, I think after 30, 40 years, we've changed that culture to some extent, where people don't ask the question, can you make a sport and be a professional at it? Nobody asks our cricketers. I think we may be past that stage. I don't know if you have a different answer to it, Leander.
I agree with Vijay, where tennis is a family sport. And in India, our cultural upbringing was to do everything with family. I think that my family was a bit unique, where I had Olympians in the house, I had basketball champions in the house. So everything that we talked about or discussed on the dining table was about excellence in sport. It was about pushing the boundaries of the human physical, mental, and emotional spirit. And in that, my dad being a doctor of medicine also was very unique, also being an Olympic champion. So I think I was very lucky to be born into this family. I feel that in India, even today, children are lucky to be having a club membership where you can play sport, because it's just very expensive. And I think that comes from exactly the question you asked, that the history of India was, the culture and the community was built around home and club. Today, a club membership could be £100,000. Not every Indian can afford that. But I feel that when you look at collegiate tennis, educational through sport, that has grown tremendously. I feel a lot of our young kids play our sport of tennis, especially our young girls, where Title IX in American college system in NCAA allows young girls equal scholarship. I think tennis, why I'm so proud of being a representative of tennis and the ITHOF, is that our sport was the pioneer of equal prize money, equal scholarship, equal opportunity. And that has been a big thing in India, is that young kids now see tennis as a vehicle to broaden their horizons, broaden their education. I would love to see tennis become a mass sport. I think that Sir Vijay popularized the game so much while he played his career. That's why kids like us took up. I would like to believe that I did my bit to popularize the game, but I think majority of the work is still left to do. And that is why I enjoy the leadership of Captain Dan, because he's got a vision where through the ITHOF and through our broad shoulders to take tennis across the world. Yes, we're ambassadors of India, but we're ambassadors of our sport. And that should go to every single country in the world. That should go to every single boy and girl in the world. I'll just branch off for a quick second here, but if you look at the world today, we're in a very vulnerable position. The wars that are going on across the world, the segregation that is going across. Before it was just color, now it's about community, it's about religion, it's about caste, it's about dialect, it's about, denomination of the gender that you think you belong to. And it's become a real issue, this gender issue. But the beautiful part about our sport It's just as we start tennis, it says love all, right? It's an inclusive sport. We include everybody in it. And I think three of us, if I can take the lead from these two champions of mine and work under the ITHUF to really make an impactful difference throughout the world, through our foundations, through our writing, through our contacts globally, through the way we conduct ourselves, I think that tennis can grow massively, especially in our neck of the woods. That's where a lot of corporate dollars coming in. That's where a lot of government dollars coming in. That's where a lot of opportunity is. We've got 2/3 of the world's population in Asia. I think if we actually put our focus a little in that direction and try to use our broad shoulders to grow the game, I think that's the way we should go.
Thank you very much. I think we have time for just one more quick one. We are under a bit of time pressure if there is one. Joel, yeah?
Richard, you covered the game before Vijay, and you've covered the game after Leander. What stayed the same in kind of the media challenge, and what's changed?
Microphone. In some aspects, it's changed for the worse, because the media, journalists are no longer able to spend time with the tennis players away from the press room, the press conference. And so I was privileged because I arrived in the game at that moment when a bunch of Australians called Rhode, Newcomb, Roach, Emerson, they go on. And there was no one else around, so I went out to dinner with them. And you get to know them. You get to know them as human beings. Today, there's a great barrier between young journalists coming into the sport and getting to know players as human beings. Not because they got a good backhand, but because who are they? You've heard today 2 remarkable examples of who tennis players can be and how articulate they are and what they have to offer. You don't get that in a press conference. And so that is the bad thing that has happened, that there is now a barrier. I appeal to all agents. I think they are the big problem. Tournament directors are a little bit afraid of doing anything that might upset a player without realizing that actually they're not helping the player. They're not helping the media. It's a lose-lose situation if you have that attitude. So that's the bad thing. The good thing is that we're still an enormous, amazing family. I can't imagine how many times I've spent in a player lounge. I've never seen anything unpleasant happen. I think in a locker room, occasionally, 1 or 2 people got a little upset with each other. But basically, we are an example for the United Nations. You want to know how people should get along? If they're black, brown, white, Hottentot, it doesn't matter. The tennis world is a wonderful family. They've emphasized family. The tennis world is a family.
Yeah. Richard, Vijay, Leander, it has been an immense pleasure to hear from you today, and I wish you many, many congratulations. Just a bit of housekeeping to wrap up. The 2024 induction ceremony will take place in Newport Saturday, the 20th July, with international streams available from that. And the inductee press conferences will take place on Thursday, July the 18th at 10 a.m. Eastern Time with virtual access available. So please let the International Tennis Hall of Fame media team know if you're planning to be in Newport, lucky you, or if you wish to attend the press conference virtually. Thanks once again to Octagon for letting us have the house. Thank you from me to the International Tennis Hall of Fame. It has been an honour to be involved in this today.